Shin Diddy Combs has been ordered to be held without bail after being charged with sex trafficking. Manhattan Federal Magistrate Judge Robyn Tarnofsky made the ruling after an almost 2-hour-long hearing where prosecutors and the musician's lawyer argued on whether he should be jailed until he faces trial. The judge agreed with the argument put forward by the U.S. Attorney's Office that Combs is a danger to the public and the potential witness in the case against him. He pleaded not guilty to racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges this afternoon, with his lawyers offering $50 million, £38 million for bail and in-home detention. Judge Tarnofsky heard both sides, and taking a brief break to consult with court officials, it was ordered that Combs be detained. The next hearing is set for September 24. The last night rapper was led out of court without being handcuffed. Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson said, Mr. Combs physically and sexually abused victims for decades. He used the vast resources of his company to facilitate his abuse and cover up his crimes. Simply put, he is a serial abuser and a serial obstructor. She added that he had an extensive and exhaustive history of obstruction of justice, including alleged bribery and witness intimidation. Combs' lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, said Combs wasn't a perfect person and told the court that there has been drug use. He has been in toxic relationships. In the criminal indictment that was unsealed this week, it was claimed Combs hit and abused women for more than a decade and presided over an empire of sexual freak-offs. The hip-hop mogul engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse toward women and other individuals, according to the document. The indictment details allegations dating to 2008 that he abused, coerced, and threatened women for years to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. He is accused of enticing female victims and male sex workers into drugged-up, sometimes days-long sexual performances dubbed freak-offs, with Combs and victims often receiving IV fluids to recover. Here, we look at some of the biggest bombshells from the indictment. Forced labor and kidnapping. The indictment outlined that the disgraced music star abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, he relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. 1,000 bottles of lube. Another allegation from the indictment was that the police discovered 1,000 bottles of lubricant and 3 AR-15s in P. Diddy's homes. According to the grand jury indictment documents seen by the Mirror, in or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residences in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Back in March, Homeland Security's raided his mansions in Beverly Hills, California, and Miami, Florida. At the time of the raids, his secret freak-off parties also came to light. These wild bashes allegedly included illegal drugs, hidden cameras, sex workers, and underage girls. Supposedly, Diddy and several of his Combs Enterprise employees had taken part in these parties. After the revelation about the 1,000 bottles of lube. Violent sex parties. The document also alleged that hotel rooms that he had booked were stuffed with controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting, and his staff was ordered to clean up to mitigate room damage, as well as procure large amounts of cash to reportedly pay the commercial sex workers. The indictment also reported that at the parties, Diddy allegedly hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair, subjecting victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in freak-offs. Continuous abuse towards women. The document alleged that the disgraced star engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse toward women and other individuals. This abuse was, at times, verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of his pattern of abuse, he manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. At times, the music star and others acting at his direction made arrangements for women and commercial sex workers to fly to Combs' location. The document alleged that P. Diddy ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. Transportation to engage in prostitution. From at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2024, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, P. Diddy knowingly transported an individual in interstate and foreign commerce with intent that the individual engage in prostitution, the document stated. He attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same, to wit, P. Diddy caused the transportation of female victims and commercial sex workers in interstate and foreign commerce on multiple occasions with the intent that they engage in prostitution.